Hello, listeners. Welcome to the February 2024 podcast of Anita Says. Each month, I share my personal viewpoints on the world of dance in India and around the world. This podcast contains my opinions, and I invite you to listen and comment. Do stay connected by subscribing, following, and engaging. In this edition, the subjects of AI, artificial intelligence, as a major disruptor for the creative community is touched upon. The successful showing of many male dancers during the recently concluded Chennai dance season is highlighted. The 120th birth anniversary of Rukmini Devi Arundale, which falls in this leap year, February 29th, and the urgent need to tighten curation of dance festivals if Chennai wants to be included in the list of intangible heritage centers. So here we go. I begin with a quote from Nobel laureate poet Rabindranath Tagore. "Freedom from fear is the freedom I claim for you, my motherland. Freedom from the burden of the ages, bending your head, breaking your back, blinding your eyes to the beckoning call of the future. Freedom from the shackles of slumber, wherewith you fasten yourself in night's stillness, mistrusting the star that speaks of truth's adventurous paths. Freedom from the anarchy of destiny, whole sails are weakly yielded to the blind, uncertain winds, and the helm to a hand ever rigid, as cold as death. Freedom from the insult of dwelling in a puppet's world, where movements are started through brainless wires, where figures wait with patience and obedience for the master of show to be stirred into a mimicry of life." How can I begin this month's musings without mentioning January 22nd and the inauguration of the Lord Rama Temple in Ayodhya, Uttar Pradesh? Nobody anywhere in the world, it seemed, could escape this extravagant media show. My WhatsApp was flooded with texts and questions about what's happening in India. World media was full of India's, quote, dangerous tilt towards autocracy. Diaspora Indians were seen celebrating in many cities across the planet. Opinions were sharply divided, but the overwhelming majority made their feelings clear. From Ayodhya to Silicon Valley, on the streets of Maldives, and onto the Times Square marquee in New York City. One thing was also evident. The needle has shifted. Politics and religion have come together in a potent mix that will impact the future of young India. What will happen is to be awaited. As celebrities herald the return of Ram Rajya, we could perhaps practice some silence and contemplation instead of ringing the death knell or the celebratory bell. Everywhere in India, especially in the north and the east, the joy has been palpable, and long lines with record crowds are continually surging towards the birthplace of Lord Rama. Politics has also entered into the realm of art and art making. There is a circular for a popular national theatre festival that has been sent to many artists about what kind of dance theatre art they should be making. What is the criteria? What is the tone and the emotion of the entire creative endeavour? Now, this is certainly a moment of concern, but there it is, in writing, plain as day. Many classical dancers seize the moment of the lead-up to the temple consecration to pose in the famous bow-holding pose of Lord Rama on their Instagram handles. Musicians posted reels of themselves singing songs in praise of the Prince of Ayodhya. While many academics and some contemporary artists were cynical and openly critical at the lavish display via the media, it was evident that the epic of Rama and Sita is firmly back on center stage and will occupy conversations and generate more spin-offs via TV serials and books in the coming months. AI has already intervened, with a childlike black idol of Ram Lalla breaking into a smile and a wink. Speaking about artificial intelligence, AI is here. It has arrived with its disruption and daring. We are going to see more and more interpretations and interventions in music, dance, visual arts, and much more. How are we going to acknowledge and accept it? How flexible can we be with this totally new and rather alien presence in our lives that can replicate our voices and movements? Sitarist Anushka Shankar says that AI cannot replace true creativity, but then the larger public will not be able to discern reality from technology. So watch out. More on that subject in the coming months. You are listening to the podcast Anita Says. The Republic at 75. 112 musicians, all women, led the 75th Republic Day Parade down Kartavya Path in New Delhi in the freezing cold of January 26th. The event, titled Avahan, featured traditional instruments like the shankh, nagaswaram, dhol, nagada, tapp, and tasha, among several others. It has taken 75 years of the Republic to arrive at this point of showcasing its talented women percussionists. It was a truly rousing and exhilarating spectacle in the freezing cold of New Delhi. Throughout January, the dance season in Chennai, that is refusing to conclude, was drenched with an overdose of Bharatanatyam. I attended more shows than I've done in the past 5 years. In addition to presenting artists in my personal studio space, I got the opportunity to watch established and emerging performers. So I will focus my observations on what I have observed during the month of January. Purush in the limelight. It was a clear triumph for male dancers. Again and again, they have succeeded in bringing audiences to their feet in admiration and applause. It has cemented the arrival of a whole new energy for Bharatanatyam. Energetic, dynamic, and pleasing, embracing their identities and bringing a compelling physicality to the limelight. Christopher Guruswamy, Kali Veerapatran, Preetam Das, G. Narendra, K.P. Rakesh, Bhavajan Kumar, Parshvanath Upadhyay were just some of the dancers for whom large crowds showed up with enthusiasm and left smiling. A. Lakshman Swamy also featured this season. He stands apart as a senior dance guru who has trained several stars and whose occasional performances still glisten in the original Varuvur style of his guru, K.J. Sarasa. Now, let the repertoire shift and change for these talented artists. Can new compositions be created for them so that these male dancers don't always have to play the feminine Nayika in a permanent state of longing? Some are convincing, and others are merely cloying. New energy needs new content. Exciting times indeed. Tightening the curation belt. The Music Academy Chennai has cemented its place as the most important venue for classical dance in the Chennai cultural calendar. It has surpassed the spot that was once occupied by Sri Krishnagana Sabha in the 1980s and 1990s. For a cultural organization that's flush with funds and donors standing in line to enrich their coffers with more endowments, it is high time that the Academy's dance committee paid more attention to appointing an artistic director for the December Dance Festival. The communication channels between the MA and selected dancers mandates that each performer submit their list of items as early as August of the year. So then, why was the audience assaulted with 8 Mohamana Varnams? I use the word deliberately since there were as many as 3 performers who danced Mohamana on the very same day. Did the organizers not notice the repetition? Could they have not alerted some of the dancers who had submitted their list later than others that they would have to change the Varnam? Even the Varnam Salon in New York City checks with all the artists about the Varnam of their choice so as to not repeat the same composition. If the selected dancers had submitted one Varnam in their list and danced another at the festival, should not these artists be put aside for a cooling period of 3 years for flouting rules? Bharatanatyam's aesthetic and content are changing rapidly. The January Dance Festival programming does not reflect this diversity. In the name of exploring tradition, quote, Audiences witnessed some artists wandering around the stage as if they had forgotten to turn on Google Maps because the divine lover had forgotten to send his lady love the location pin. The Allaripu Jatiswaram or Shabdam have almost disappeared from the dancers' repertoire. What then is the tradition that the organizers are speaking about? What are they holding on to with such ferocity? Today's generation of dancers are quick, smart, capable, tech-savvy, attention-deprived, and impatient. Their own creative antenna should be set alight. Revered cultural symbols like the Music Academy should recognize this and find a way of balancing the changing currents while creating a historical reference point for the audience. For more than 2,000 performances recorded this season, the fatigue showed on the singers and writers. I watched some of the vocalists who had accepted as much as 3 shows a day falter and hesitate at important moments, failing to pick up the lyric when the jati ended, searching for their cues on their iPads. Given that each dancer gets no more than 2 rehearsals with the entire orchestra, it is a wonder that they're able to get on stage at all. With the density of shows and paucity of accompanists, dancers often end up agreeing to perform to the songs that the singer already knows. Overall, the standard of dance music has declined. I do not see the freshness and enthusiasm that Sudha Raguraman brings to her every performance. I listen to veteran Radha Badri, who has become very choosy with her appearances, as well as the melodious Nandini Anand, who's also very careful about overexposure. Murali Parthasarathy, a favourite of senior dancers, sounded tired, although his interpretations are always very pleasing to hear. Several younger singers were not as careful about the pronunciations of Sanskrit, Marathi, Hindi and Tamil lyrics, and the result has been far from pleasing. One visitor to the city observed that Chennai is not a naturally art-loving city anymore. They come for the artists, not the art. While personality cults abound in other genres, it was disappointing to see the lack of enthusiasm for well-staged shows like Samagati by Natya Vriksha and people actually walking out during the Nrityagram presentation. Ensemble work is the call of the hour by every funder and presenter. This is a special skill that needs to be acquired by so many choreographers. Watching is one way of learning. So, if Chennai wants to be included in the list of intangible heritage centres, then overall standards of curation and presentation need to be seriously looked at. Paravailla Chalta Hai will not work in the larger world of arts making. Dancing words. Exhaustion was everywhere, not just with the dance musicians, but even among the writers and reporters covering the season. The Hindu and Nartaki are the 2 main publications that give attention and space to the dance festival. Nartaki focuses on dance with some allied and intersecting topics. The Hindu is besieged, that is the accurate term, with so many articles and requests for coverage from dancers and musicians that the season coverage extends all the way to the end of February or even early March. Nartaki's digital space allows for a quicker turnaround of information, but even there, we find some unhappy dancers who feel ignored. Hallucinations of an artifact. Contemporary dancer and choreographer Mandeep Rekhi performed his quirky and irreverent interpretation of the much photographed and discussed figure of the dancing girl from Indus Valley civilization. Using AI, projection and playful dancing, Rekhi and his 2 co-performers, Akanksha Kumari and Manju Sharma, pushed back on the multiple assertions that have been made on behalf of the figurine. Moving through the Goethe Institute space in Chennai, the performers were energetic, searching and disruptive. The work was also sharply political and invited questions about whether the body of a nation can be reimagined through an artifact. This presentation was made possible by Basement 21, a collective of contemporary dance artists and performers, as a run-up to the annual March Dance in Chennai. This is an important event of contemporary dance and performance that every dancer, especially those classically trained, must attend. You're listening to the podcast Anita Says, Decentering India and Hindu Centrism. With this as a provocative title, the Academy UK sponsored an online webinar and a 15-month dance project. The organizers quickly established their credentials, acknowledged their privilege, and proceeded to talk about expanding the dance studies and performance circle to include the dances of Bangladesh, Nepal, the Himalayan borders, Afghanistan, and Sri Lanka. To bring community, folk, and ritual dance traditions to the attention of funders and dance enthusiasts was the focus. The extended project aims to cover dancers across identities, geographies, and abilities, deepening the connections between audiences in old age homes, hospitals, open spaces, young audiences, and even nightclubs. The title was perhaps meant to raise a few hackles. It did, and bring attention to the session. The main thrust was to pay attention to the lesser known and ignored forms of dance expressions that need support and development on the ground and within academia. With a finale scheduled for April 2025 at the Place Theatre in London, it will be interesting to see how far some of these localized performance styles can become more visible and broad-based to newer audiences. One extra day for the extraordinary. It's a leap year and we have an extra day in February, and it's also the day, February 29th, that we can recognize a remarkable pioneer, Rukmini Devi Arundale, part of the Woman Nation Mother India project. Devi was the word carefully chosen for Rukmini Neelakanta Shastri, this brilliant young woman. But she was impatient at becoming a puppet of the very system of theosophy that anointed her. On her 120th birth anniversary, we await a new biography written by V.R. Devika, a folklorist and currently on tour with her best-selling book on the female revolutionary Dr. Muthu Lakshmi Reddy. Meanwhile, I urge readers interested in dance history to read Leela Sampson's book on this iconic personality. Recuperating historical figures comes with its own set of challenges. In writing or speaking about Rukmini Devi Arundale, we must also ask ourselves, who is not being represented here? Her vision of Kalakshetra was supported and realized by a host of influences and individuals. That chance meeting with ballet superstar Anna Pavlova on a ship to Australia was one of many turning points in her career. Looking back at Rukmini Devi's achievements is truly humbling. What she achieved has been remarkable, and if her beloved Kalakshetra is currently going through a churning, it is to be expected with every institution created by a single visionary. Each time a dancer ties that practice sari, shortened to end at the knees, remember, it is Atte who designed it. If the musical ensemble is seated stage right, instead of following the performer, it was her decision. If women are conducting performances today, playing the Nattuvangam, it is also thanks to Atte. While some dance historians and some dancers may fling mud at this Renaissance woman with words like Sanskritization, sanitization, cleansing, replacing Salamu with a Namaskar of the hereditary form, let us take this moment to acknowledge her remarkable contribution. Today, Kalakshetra graduates are in great demand as Bharatanatyam teachers in dance centers around the world. No other institution was founded on the bold ideas of braiding, dance, music, education, weaving, craft, and animal welfare. The morning multi-faith prayer under the banyan tree continues to be an example of secularism. Let us applaud and be inspired by this brave and dynamic woman on her 120th birth anniversary, the first woman in Indian history to be nominated to the Rajya Sabha and who almost became the President of India. The list of Padma Awards contained many delights. Uppermost were the names of Padma Subramaniam and Vaijayantimala Bali, to be conferred the Padma Vibhushan at ages 80 and 90 for their lifetime of concerted dedication to dance came with a whoop of joy to so many of their admirers. I join with Team Nartaki in sending our congratulations and respects to all the Padma awardees. Thank you for your art, and may generations be inspired by your determination and brilliance. Wishing you all health, energy and hope. Wherever you are in the world, dance. However old or young you are, dance. However frail or robust you are, dance. Keep that rhythm in your heart and in your step. Please listen and subscribe to our podcasts and YouTube channels, and also our platforms on Instagram and Facebook. Until next month and springtime, this is Anita Ratnam signing off.